And hello, everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
Did I accidentally introduce the last podcast?
No, I did.
Okay. I just all of a sudden had a flashback. Of course, we've been doing this whole from home quarantine podcasting thing that it's getting kind of crazy. So
it's getting hard to keep everything straight a little bit.
It is. But, we're all trying to keep level-headed and we're doing our best. And I want to give everybody at home props for doing your best because that's all we literally can be doing right now. Oh, Lordy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so today we decided to do a little Imagineering Spotlight again.
Yes.
And this time we decided to focus on the first female Imagineer of Walt Disney, or WED, which is a huge thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Harriet Burns is the very first female Imagineer to be employed as an Imagineer at WED, which is pretty cool.
Well, and she was one of the first three. Literally,
right.
Walt came in and was like, okay, so you and you, because you're sharing a workstation, and you are now going to be part of my secret Disneyland project that I'm going to convince everybody needs to happen, and we're so thankful that he did.
Right. Even though it was probably crazy at the time.
But yeah, it wasn't anything like there was 50 people ahead of her, 50 males ahead of her, and then all of a sudden she came. No, Walt just went, you, and you. Because you're close to each other. Okay. Do it.
And the lady. Let's just make this work, okay?
Didn't matter that, she was female or not. He just went, do it. And so that's one of the things I love about this company. I love that Walt didn't really care what gender you were, what ethnicity you were. He just, if you were a quality worker, he would use you.
Yeah.
And that was the case of Harriet Burns. So she had originally started with Disney in 1955. She had originally actually worked for a dice company that went under. But one of the people
company.
One of the people that worked there, though, used to work for Disney and was like, hey, come along. I'll be able to get you a job. And she's like, okay. And so she started working for Disney as a prop and set painter for the original Mickey Mouse Club.
Holy moly. Okay.
So 1955, she was a prop and set painter. For black and white television.
For black and white television. And so apparently, and just, I don't know if this says something about her, whether it was expected of her at the time or just the way she was, she would wear a dress with matching heels and gloves and then using a drill press or sanding set pieces. She was real fancy. She could work hard and look good doing it. That's so funny.
Okay, so when you think about 1950s career women, working women, you had to be a certain level. You couldn't just show up in jeans and a t-shirt. That didn't happen. So
but she was doing construction work. It's so funny.
I know. It's wonderful that she was able to be like, no, I can totally be one of the guys wearing heels while doing this whole drill press. Well, it makes me so happy. It makes the inner Crystal, because that's who I am. Because I'm a fancy dresser,
you're real fancy,
but I can work on things.
Yeah.
And my wood shop when I was growing up, the old wood shop teacher was like, I'd love to be able to hand you the keys when I retire. And so I'm totally that type of a person. And so she's my girl. I totally connect with her on a soul level on that.
Yeah.
I'm let me do my nails, and then I'm gonna work on this sander over here, this belt sander. Okay, cool.
Cool. That's funny.
But then Walt came up to her and her workspace partner and was like, hey, so we have to pitch this. Can you guys make some miniatures about my concepts? And so they did. To the point of where even Burns herself crafted the Disneyland model for the Sleeping Beauty castle that we see today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like the level of influence that you would have, that she had on like the way we see the entire all the Disney properties,
Hmm.
like all was that was the impetus for all of it. And not only that, but she also did the model for the Matterhorn, which is one of
Yeah.
like a super cutting edge ride, like super early on.
Like
It's pretty amazing.
the two huge iconic landmarks of Disneyland.
Yeah,
She's like, okay, so this is the way I'm going to make it look.
yeah,
Because, Walt gave her certain directions as far as Sleeping Beauty Castle goes, but all she had to go off of was, some inspirational art from the movie and his direction. And then everything else
right,
was her. And so
yeah,
she worked through the height requirements and she worked through, everything. She became phenomenal, phenomenally
wow,
known for her miniature work.
that's
And
so
so,
cool.
like, almost everything that she did, because everything that happened in Disneyland, Walt required a miniature to be made of it.
Right,
So she did all the miniatures for New Orleans Square. She
hmm,
did all the miniatures for Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, Walt never was able to go on the original Pirates of the Caribbean ride, but he went through and was walked through her miniature set, which was so detailed that he could see, like, yes, we need to have a little bit less blood on this guy, a little bit more cartoony on this
right,
guy, and was
right,
able
right,
to work with her miniatures so much to tweak and hone that ride, even though he never
yeah,
was able to ride the final result.
that's so crazy.
Same thing
Yeah,
with Haunted Mansion. She did
mm-hmm.
the miniatures for the Haunted Mansion too. I mean, this woman has touched every ride in Disneyland.
Yeah, amazing. Like that first round of all these iconic things that happened in Disneyland, and it's just like, oh yeah, she did that. Oh yeah, she did that. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. And so from what I can see here too, so she would do kind of like she would do the final paint and process kind of to make things look like they belonged there.
Yeah, that was called a
Um
figure finisher.
Figure finishing. Okay.
Mhm.
So, so you're talking about, and these are things that always amazed me when I went to Disney when I was very young, and I mean still to this day obviously, but one thing that always kind of grabbed me was it's like, how is it possible that this isn't from whenever? Like how is
Mhm.
it possible that this, that this is indoors? How is it, like, it just, I was always just questioning how they were able to make things look old, or weathered, battered by rain, or like all
Mhm.
these weird things that weren't possible because of where they were, but they made them look so good.
Yeah, the aging
And
on
that's when she did.
things and
Mm-hmm.
it just those final touches, the
Mm-hmm.
like it says in the title, the figure finishing. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that she really excelled in and she touched every single attraction to give it that natural feel, give it that feel that you're looking for from the the ride to emote the sensations, the places, the you know world that they're creating.
Yeah.
And she was able to do that for them. So it was, I mean, I can't stop using the word phenomenal.
I know. It's okay. She seems to fit that characteristic, so it's all good. Yeah, absolutely. She went through and did a lot she actually went in and did the painting and design work for a lot of the underwater pieces, both figurines and set pieces for Submarine Voyage, the original
She
Submarine
did them
Voyage.
all. She did them
That's so
all.
crazy.
Not some, she did them all.
Oh,
And
she's like, I don't trust anyone else with this crap. I'm doing
I
it
mean,
myself.
could you imagine being like, okay, well, my medium is this, and now I'm working under the water, and I
I
have to
just,
make these figurines move, and I need to make this set
yeah,
piece actually, you know, portray what I'm trying to do for the submarine voyage story.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean,
It's yeah.
she was the one who, if you've watched the Wonderful World of Color, like we were that old. But
Yeah.
in the 70s, that showed up on ABC. That was Disney's behind the scenes special. You, or at least, images, pictures of it. You might have seen a picture of her with Walt and a tiki bird. And she was
Mm-hmm.
actually in charge of the tiki birds to the point of where she was individually applying each of the feathers
Oh my
to
god.
each of the birds. And she worked with the actual bird structure creator and tried to figure out how to make them look real. So Walt wanted them to breathe. We've talked about this before when we did
Yeah.
our Adventureland, I think, episode,
Probably.
question
Yeah.
mark.
I think so.
But Walt wanted them to breathe. And so she had to figure out how to make this feather costume that she was putting on it actually move with it. And when it would breathe, it'd expand and they looked fine. But then when it would contract, all of a
Yeah.
sudden it looked like it was scrunched and like the birds had mites.
Oh no.
So she had to figure out how to lay the feathers properly so that way the feathers didn't look unnatural as the bird was
Wow.
breathing. And if you haven't been to the Enchanted Tiki Room and seen the birds, like actually looked at them for even just their breathing mechanisms, I mean, those are huge steps that that
Yeah.
they did, and we've talked
Yeah.
about in excess because this was a revolutionary marvel that Walt had come
Yeah.
up with and they were able to create. And she was the one who actually brought those characters to life, I feel, because without the feathers, they wouldn't be birds.
No, absolutely.
But you saw her
Absolutely.
there working on them, and that's the visual image that you see with Walt and the bird and
Right.
her talking
Yeah.
about bringing the Enchanted Tiki Room to life.
Life. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of birds, she actually created the must have been the prop birds
Mm-hmm.
for Mary Poppins, which is again pretty impressive because that's actually on film, which means that like you're gonna be probably seeing them a little more up close.
A completely different dynamic.
Yeah, totally different dynamic.
I mean,
But she was able to work. I mean, like, because she worked in doing set work for TV before, but like that's just got to be a level of detail that I could never imagine.
and that's the same birds that they brought over to the Carousel of Progress when
Oh, sure.
they made that ride, when they made that attraction for the 1964 World's Fair. So Harriet worked on the Carousel of Progress as well as Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln.
Wow.
And I mean, her fingers are in everything. Like, I was
Yeah.
reading a story from her granddaughter because she had passed away at that point in time, and the Walt Disney Family History Museum was doing a spotlight on her. And
Okay.
the granddaughter was like, my grandma made all of these pirates come to life. And my favorite one that she did was the pirate that you see on the bridge where they're sitting on
Yeah.
the bridge and they have the leg hanging over, and we're all
Over
from
the edge.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're all familiar with
Familiar with it. Yeah.
the pirate, and it was actually modeled after their family's milkman. So I mean, there were some Imagineers that had some sketch concepts and this and that they took inspiration from, but that one right there, that's George the family milkman.
Wow. That is crazy.
I just there are so many little things. Like, she was very involved due to her excellence in miniatures in
Yeah.
the Storybook Land canal boats, which is only in Disneyland, the original D-Land,
Land. Yep.
in Anaheim. But that whole attraction is nothing but miniatures. You go through
Sure.
miniatures of, I don't want to say every single story that Disney has produced, but a number of them. And so she
Hmm.
was very integral in creating the different huts and scenes and castles and
Sure.
everything for all these different worlds that the Walt Disney Company had created and bringing them to life so you can see them in miniature form.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really amazing. I had something else I was going to say, but I don't remember what it was. Also, I'm very proud of you for getting Carousel of Progress correct every single time you said it, because you just say it
Yeah!
multiple times,
Go
and
me go.
every time you nailed it. And
Yeah.
we always have to fact check each other on this one, because whenever we say it, like there's about a
It's so
40%
easy.
chance we'll get it wrong.
Another
Yeah.
fact that I loved finding was she was integral in the creation of the Dumbo flying elephant ride. So here they were trying to figure
Sure.
out how to make these 700-pound elephants fly and allow all of these different people to ride them in the circular format that we're now very familiar with, and it's a standard thing and whatever, yada yada.
Right.
But her
Right.
favorite story from that is that she had to paint the Timothy Mouse at the top.
Yeah.
She is deathly afraid of heights.
Oh no.
I don't know why she didn't think of doing it before it was put up
I
there,
know.
or having someone take it off and let her work on it.
Work on
But
it?
she actually
Yeah.
had to work on it while it was attached to the highest point of
Oh
the
my god.
Dumbo attraction. And so she has famously been quoted with, "I'm going to do the best job I've ever done, so I'll never have to do it again." And I feel that. I feel that in my soul.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
That is
I
so
don't do heights
funny.
either, and I can't imagine having to put that much detail into Timothy Mouse on such a high
Jeez.
piece.
Peace.
And you're
Oh
just being like,
man.
nope, I'm never gonna do it again. I'm just gonna make it perfect. Perfect.
No redos. So she actually worked for Walt Disney Corporation until 1986, which is quite a run,
31
honestly.
years.
Yeah. And at that point she retired, which it sounds like she certainly left her mark in a lot of places.
Yeah, definitely. Even more than
Oh,
what we've mentioned too.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's so many things that we can't even find. And in addition to that, in 1992, she got a window on Main Street in Disneyland, which she was the first woman to do that, which is crazy. 1992, she was the first woman to do that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
they waited until
Oof.
1992 to be like, okay, a chick can have a window.
Oof.
But I do love her window.
Yes. It's the Artisan's Loft, handmade miniatures by Harriet Burns.
Yeah.
That's pretty much that's actually probably her business.
Yeah, I mean that's what she
It's like
did.
legitimately what she did. That's pretty cool. And not long after that, in the year 2000, she was made a Disney legend, which is of course very well deserved.
Mm-hmm. And then in
Yes.
2008, she passed away.
Yep.
It happens, unfortunately.
It
But
happens.
she definitely left a huge mark on the Disney family. And
Yep.
every single person who has been able to go to Disneyland, especially, to be able to appreciate the work that she's put into it and all of the things that she's done for the Disney company.
Yeah. And with the level of stuff that she's actually done, I'm surprised that I didn't she's not more present in the narrative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I were talking about this while we were doing research.
Yeah.
We had a hard time finding much about Harriet Burns, which, when you're talking about, I mean, I have books upon books of
Yeah.
different Disney Imagineers sitting right next to me. But if I wanted to look up, information about Harriet Burns, there was a wiki page and there was a little blurb here and there. And it took me quite a bit of time to piece this stuff together. You would think
Yeah.
that there'd be more information around her for
Yeah.
how important she was, being one of the first original 3 Imagineers and
I
having touched
know.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just surprising to me. And the level of, it seems like the stuff, not only did she leave a big legacy, but it seems like the kind of things that she did were, laid in stone for the stuff that they did going forward. The use
Mhm.
of models, I know Walt was into that too, but
Walt
she went and
loved
did all
his
this
models.
modeling work. Yeah. And so she went and did all these models. And then I think they're doing some form of models or another to this very day.
Mhm.
It's the way that they're able to make all this stuff happen. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's their way of being able to make sure that scale's correct, that
Hmm.
coloring's correct, that their sightline stories, everything
Hmm.
that they're going for with, telling the story that they're trying to portray within Disney is accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a pretty amazing story of a pretty amazing person who I
Yeah.
hope gets to have
So,
more
this is our
spotlight.
little homage, you know,
Yes.
to our initial, original female Imagineer, Harriet Burns.
Yeah.
May we follow in your footsteps and many others as well. And thank you so much for laying the ground for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this has been WD Carousel Podcast. Got it right. My name's
Yes.
Crystal,
And I'm Ian.
and we hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everyone.